learned an important lesson recently. Yeah, I learned that there doesn't really seem to be a difference between an interactive show and a show that requires audience participation. Mandatory audience participation. Random mandatory audience participation. Or maybe there is a difference, but it doesn't matter if you're at the Blue Man Group show. You all know who the Blue Man Group is, right? The three guys and they're painted blue. They paint, but like with drums, and they hit it and they like create art out of that. They hit tubes, and moving the tubes and making the tubes shorter and longer, it makes different tones, and it's like a whole musical extravaganza. They don't speak when they perform, they just stare, and they're very expressive and have a very unique skill set. You know who this is. Let me set the scene. We get there, and it's a small theater. I've never been to this theater before. It was the Charles Playhouse. It was about 200 people or so. So there's like the stage, and then there's like a floor middle area. And then up on like a riser, there's another area. Then there's two risers on the side, then two triangular places. Me and my friend got seats on like the triangular side on this side. So there was a seat, then two seats, then four. You guys know what triangles are. So we were in the two-seater right here. This single seat in front of us had nobody in it, so it was just us. We actually had great seats. And when it started, it was just an amazing show. I've never seen a Blue Man Group show before. I've seen them before when they featured at an AJR concert during the OK Orchestra tour that they did, but that was just a feature. I'd never actually seen a production before. And seeing them so close and like the art. I wish this door would lock. Someone just walked in. Hold on, let me pull myself out together. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so seeing them so close and seeing the paint splatter and the set design and the music, it was really amazing. And then they came into the crowd. And so in the theater design, they have very, very large defined aisles, that's safe. So the three of them would go up to different groups of people in different areas of the theater and just stare at them very intently. And I guess that was the bit, kind of just trying to like freak people out or make them uncomfortable or whatever. I don't know what the bit was, but that's what they were doing. And it was they were blank-faced and wide-eyed, and I get it's supposed to be unsettling and uncomfortable. I get it. And I know in hindsight, it's just three guys, three artistic theater musical guys in blue paint. I get that. But that didn't make it less unsettling or uncomfortable. And if you saw my fears video, you would know that when I was a kid, I was absolutely terrified of people dressed up, whether those were mascots or like in costumes or dressed up as aliens or, dramatic face paint. Anything that a human was that wasn't acting human-like in that respect, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying I was afraid of the blue men. I'm saying that I did reconcile with my younger self in that moment. So yeah, I was unsettled when they got very close to my friend and I and were just kind of staring blankly at us. Here I am sitting there completely under the impression that this entire act is just, supposed to make people laugh and feel uncomfortable. So as they're staring at us, I kind of lean to my friend and I'm like, haha, I'm so freaked out. This is so weird. And I guess I had some fear in my eyes, but it was fine. And they walked away. So they walked away and they kept like staring at other people. And then all of a sudden, one man walked right back to me, got very, very close to my face, and then grabbed my hand, pulled me out of my seat, and led me to the stage. And when I tell you, I started panicking. I never could have imagined, one, being pulled up for this audience participation thing. I didn't even know this show had audience participation. I knew it had an interactive element, and I was watching that throughout the show, but I didn't know that there were going to be actual audience members going up. I just apparently happened to be the first one to be pulled up of the night. The one good thing going is that I wasn't the only one on stage. They happened to pull up another older woman. So I'm like, okay, if we're going down together. The guy and another guy were leading me and the other woman up onto the stage, and we're lined up now on 5 stools. So I'm on one side, it's the 3 men, and then the woman on the other. And I, at this point, have started panic giggling, which sadly, I'm so sorry to everyone who had to hear this, sounds like hyperventilating. And I also happen to be wearing a mask, which made the breathing and the giggling and everything else 10 times worse. And then I realized it got really quiet, and I was still kind of giggling, and I realized that something started happening on stage, and I had to pull my act together very fast, or else I wasn't gonna get through this, or I was gonna ruin whatever the hell we were gonna do anyway. And I don't know what came over me in about a second when I realized what was going on, but I locked in. Looking back at what I was experiencing, I really felt like I became a different person in a matter of a second. I stopped giggling, I slowed down my breathing, I looked up I was staring at the floor kind of intently, I looked up and started engaging with the crowd, started engaging with the group, and just like tried to be a good performer. That's kind of what happened. I just started performing. And maybe that's a little dramatically stated, but that's exactly what I felt like. I stopped panicking and I became a performer. I tried to make funny and amusing comments. I was dramatic with my gestures. I was smiling wide, and even though you couldn't see my smile, my eyes were bright and they were communicating joy rather than fear. I also began to committing hard to staring back. If they were gonna stare at me and communicate, I was gonna stare right back, which was very convenient, what I should have done earlier, because if they can't speak, so they had to communicate using their eyes, so I had to communicate back using my eyes. So the act finally starts, and I'm fully committed. So the other woman and I were handed telephones. When we spoke into them, that was amplified throughout the theater, which was weird at first. I was not expecting that. So the woman and I said hello and expressed our concern for being on stage. And I remember her asking me oh, what do you think we're gonna do? And I said oh, I don't know, but my heart's racing. And then she says, almost ominously, but maybe it was just the way it was echoing off the walls of the theater, but she just says, I don't know, but I think we're about to find out. And then the phones were taken away from us and the next part starts. But why would, it was done so ominously. I don't know why I'm explaining that part like it was from a horror film or something, but I thought that was just a killer line from the woman. It was great for setting up the exposition. So the man next to the woman hands her a heart-shaped box, and she's directed to stand up and hand it to me, and then I'm handed a bouquet of flowers, and I make a grand gesture of handing them back to her, and then we sit back down, and all of a sudden a third man pulls another box out, and he hands it to me and is communicating to me that I need to open the box. And my honest to God first thought is, what is about to jump out at me? So in my head, I am mentally preparing for a jump scare. What I wasn't mentally prepared for was to open the box and see a pair of pink, sparkly handcuffs. I won't say my life flashed before my eyes, but my day flashed before my eyes. I knew what was gonna happen. I wasn't ready for it. Before I even shared with the audience what was in the box, I looked up to the heavens and took a moment for the Lord. Right there on that stage, I was with the Lord. I took a deep breath, and then I proceeded. And you know what? It was a necessary pause. So then I took them out of the box and was proceeded to be handcuffed to the blue man. Then I guess in the middle of me having my handcuff crisis, the man who was in the middle got up and started posing on the stage. And literally out of thin air, the other woman and I are handed this easel, and we're handed 2 cups of paint, and we're directed to paint the man who was posing. I jump into action mode. Luckily, he is only 2 colors, blue and black, because of the black jumpsuit, so I just start painting. And I'm going fast, and my one art class from college is coming in clutch right now. They literally give us 15 seconds to paint something, and then they took it out of our hands and had the audience members vote on which one was better by cheering loudly. And I won. The crowd liked my objectively terrible painting better. And you know what? I was really proud of myself. They smacked a blue ribbon on it. I took winner photos with a big dramatic camera and the flash going off. It was so cool. And then in the flurry of all of that, they're putting a mat down on the floor. And you know those mats with the footsteps on them, and they're numbered, and the point is you're supposed to follow the dancing footsteps and teach yourself how to dance? Well, we're still doing that. And in the fury of all of that, they take off not my handcuff, but the man's handcuff, and I'm handcuffed now to the other woman. And at this point, I can't keep up with anything that is happening, because all of a sudden she's wearing a veil, I have a bouquet of flowers, they're handing us plastic champagne flutes, someone pulls a hose out of nowhere to fill up our glasses, and then the entire audience is being sprayed by the hose water. And they weren't just being nicely sprayed, oh it's the mist, oh it's the shower setting. No, it was jet stream power straight to the face. This girl in the front row, I felt so bad for her. She was drenched. Me and this one are just watching this happen. I think they wanted us to throw the water we had in our cups at the crowd, but I couldn't commit to that because I also didn't know for sure. And I wasn't about to stand up there and throw water at somebody if I really wasn't supposed to do that. The eye communication started to fail at this point. Finally, the directs other woman and I over to the camera camera and we say hello, or we wave because we're just married, we're up on the big screen. Then we're led off the stage, down the aisle again, there are bubbles flying everywhere. Then all of a sudden we're outside the theater again and stagehands are taking the props out of our hands and handcuffing us. I had to take a moment in what turned out to be a very liminal space to just catch my breath again and to really take in what the hell just happened. I settled for a second for walking back to my seat, where I found my friend practically vibrating with laughter. It took us a solid couple of minutes to calm down again, because the second I sat down with her, we started laughing again. And that was my experience as an audience participant at the Blue Man Group. And here's the thing. Obviously, I like attention. I firmly believe you can't run a YouTube channel without liking attention just a little bit. And hell, I run a YouTube channel, an Instagram, a Twitter, a TikTok. I got stuff on Spotify. So you may be asking yourself, Nicole, why do you seem so distraught about this audience participation situation if you love attention so much? Well, thank you for posing that question, first off. And as I'm sure maybe a few other of my attention lovers may concur, it's all about controlled attention. Everything out there is controlled by me. I know what to post, I know what to say, I know what I look like. Hell, I'm reading off of a script that I wrote right now. And of course, I can go off base or say something else. But of course, right now, I also have the control to edit this. This isn't live. The audience participation was fully live, fully unplanned, and the point was to be clueless. And I don't really run that way. And there are some people out there who will take any attention they can get, which is great. I'm not saying anything bad about that. It just happens that my type of attention that I'd like to receive is more controlled. So yeah, when I was pulled up there at first for a solid minute, I was really scared and I was really panicking about all the attention I was getting. And honestly, I'm glad I was able to pull that energy together, because in hindsight, what an amazing experience I got to have. I'm glad that it happened and that I was able to find some joy out of it and not come out of it regretting what I did or what I sounded like or how I looked. I'm glad that I was able to just be like, let's embrace it, let's have fun with it, and I'm sure it'll be great. And it was. And so here's the kicker. Before the show started, we were told that we were not allowed to film, we're not allowed to take photos, so I put my phone in my pocket. And my friend, who was with me, asked me to put her phone in my pocket as well, because I was wearing these sick cargo pants, so I had multiple pockets everywhere, so it was fine for me to have multiple phones in my pocket and to sit down comfortably as well. So that means that both of our phones were in my pocket while I was on stage. So there is absolutely no proof that any of this happened. No photos, no videos, not a thing. So it is fully within your right, as a viewer, to not believe a single word I have just said. And to believe I just made all of this up for attention. I guess you'll never know.